Hi guys.
Hi everyone.
Nice to be live with you. So many of you guys tune in for these live broadcasts, and normally we talk about a wide range of subjects and it's just very entertainment based. Well, today we're not quite going to do that. We're going to stick on topic, and the topic's going to be how to move to the Philippines. And I'm going to talk about a few things, then I'll answer your questions. You're free to ask me questions about even things that I don't normally talk about or answer, like about my personal story about moving to the Philippines. So we'll also be talking about my new book, which the link is in the description, and Casual Germ. Already bought it as soon as we started this broadcast, so
Thank
thank you
you,
very
Casual
much.
Germ.
But first, I'd like to tell a story. Years ago, I wanted to move to Los Angeles to be an actor, and what I did was I bought this book for $20. And this was a book about how to move to Los Angeles, how to go about it, moving to Los Angeles, and how about starting your career as an actor. And this $20 book, I bought it, read it, got in my car from Ypsilanti, Michigan, drove to Los Angeles, California, and because of that $20 book, I went on to have an illustrious career in major Hollywood movies. I made millions of dollars, all because I bought that $20 book. Now, would you believe that, Imabel?
Yes, and we're living the $1 million property.
Well, you shouldn't believe that because that's not exactly what
Joke
happened.
only.
That's not quite what happened. Now, however, that $20 book, it did empower me by pointing me in the right direction. It was so valuable to me, very much beyond that $20, because it got me living in the appropriate areas that you'd want to live in to be if you're going to start a career of that type. Helped get my foot in the door to where I could start getting legitimate jobs that were paying me money. So it really helped get me on my feet and pointed me in the wrong direction. Now, did I earn millions of dollars as an actor in Hollywood? No, but it's not actually going to do the work for you. It did what was expected and even beyond what's expected, of just really pointing me in the right direction and helping me get on my feet. So it was some of the best $20 that I spent, and it was an investment that easily paid off because I did get jobs in LA as an actor. And you get one job, it already pays for itself. Now, things weren't always easy, but the point is, no matter what, things aren't going to be easy when you're doing something like that. But the book helped me. It helped eliminate some of the hassle, the pain, because if I wouldn't have read that book, I would have showed up in LA and I would have just been lost. Now, I was pretty much lost anyways, as someone that's trying to embark on doing something so lofty like that, but it really did cut down on wasted money and wasted time and heartache. It really eliminated a lot of mess, even if it didn't create everything perfectly for me, and things never quite work out the way you hope a lot of the times. So, I mean, some of the best $20 I spent. Now, for years, especially in 2012, I came to the Philippines on a little bit more long-term basis, and something happened that I didn't expect. People started writing me, Travis, oh, you moved to the Philippines. I want to do that too. I never thought other people were going to want to do this after like watching my videos and stuff. I never even thought people were going to want to visit the Philippines. But people started telling me, oh, Travis, I watch your videos, so I bought plane tickets to go visit the Philippines because I watch your videos. And it's like, dang, I didn't even expect that. And now people for years, too, they've been telling me, geez, how did you move to the Philippines? I want to do that, too. So, well, you're in luck because I wrote a book. The link is in the description, and it's a guide to help you eliminate some of the hassle, the headache, some of the wasted money that you might waste not knowing what to do. Some of the heartache and the problems can be eliminated by it, because now you're going to have it's a hard thing to do, but this will help make things a bit easier on you. So, it's links in the description, and I believe you have some questions.
Yes. Well, thank you, Travis, for sharing these things with all of you guys. But while you were talking about all these things, there are questions that came to mind that I think you guys would love to listen. And so let me ask you, the first question would be, who is this book for, Travis?
Well, this book, anyone that's interested in the Philippines is going to benefit from it, surely. Even people, I think, that don't want to move to the Philippines. There's things in here after writing it and actually reading it myself. I realized, geez, there's a lot of things in this book that are very beneficial to you no matter where you live in the world. So it's definitely for people that are just interested in the Philippines. Even if you don't want to move to the Philippines, I'm sure you'll benefit from this book. But it is specifically written and aimed at people that really want to move to the Philippines, because so many people, it's interesting, the comments over the years I've gotten about how so many people, it's almost like they want you to tell them exactly how to do it. And some things I never really wanted to answer because maybe they're a bit personal. And there's a lot of things about my personal story, how I did things that wouldn't really work for other people. So when I wrote this book, I kept that in mind too. It's not about me. It's not, for my benefit. I aimed this specifically in mind for you, how you would be thinking and what would work for you personally. So that was very kept in mind. But seeing all the comments over the years, there's so many people that are just like, geez, I want all the answers by watching your YouTube videos. And, it's almost like they want it's like they want me to fly to where they live, hold them by the hand, take them to the airport, get on the airplane with them, bring them in here, check them into an apartment. This is your new apartment. Well, that's not going to happen, but this is maybe the next best thing to that. If people are so weak, there's nothing that you can do. No one's going to fly and help them out that way if they're that weak-spirited. And you'd be amazed by how many people are weak-spirited. Now, there is a lot of other people. There's so many people that they have that weak spirit. For instance, I did a video in our video series where we went to Baguio. Someone left a comment saying, "Oh, I wish there was a vlogger that would go to Baguio and vlog about it because I'm interested in moving there." It's like, what a wimp you are. You need someone to show you exactly. Why don't you move there and be a vlogger? Why do you need someone to show you exactly? That's not going to happen. So my book is the next best thing to that. People want things so easy. It's never going to be that easy. All someone can do is basically show you inspiration, and we have loads of that in this book because that's actually the main thing. So they can show you inspiration and help give you some pointers, and we have tons of pointers, but more importantly, the goal for this book is for people that want to move to the Philippines. It's going to help them decide if that's what they want, if that's what they really want, because I tell you, over the years too, so many people have told me, "Travis, I want to move to the Philippines," and then I say, "Oh, okay, why is that?" And then often they'll give me a reason, and I'm thinking after hearing their reason, well, geez, you don't need to move to the other side of the planet to have that. You could have that where you currently are, closer to where you currently are. Why move to another country if that's what you want? So it's going to help you learn what you really want out of life. Because I tell you, so many people go through life unsure of what they want. They're not specific, and then they get upset when they get unspecific results in their life. So this is going to help you decide what you want and also what you don't want.
Well, basically, like what I'm really just paying attention to everything that he says right now, and I want to share this with them as well. If it's hard for many people to really to take action, to go to the Philippines right away, then the best first step that you can take is buy the book, because that really help you a lot in whether to decide to go to the Philippines, to move to the Philippines or not, or how you would do the moving to the Philippines, right? But this gets me to the second question. I'm not sure if the answer to this question was already mentioned.
One second, I'll just say the questions are coming in live. I'm not trying to ignore you guys. We're just going to talk for a little bit. Then we'll get to your questions, and you can even ask me questions about moving to the Philippines. You can ask me questions about my own personal story, because that's actually not really covered in the book. The book's not about me. So you can ask me questions about even things that I don't normally talk about. Feel free to ask me those, because like I said, that's not in the book. And maybe I know so many people are interested in my personal story because they think that they can model it and emulate it. And that's not a bad theory. That's not a bad theoretical way of thinking, modeling someone else. But in reality, it doesn't quite play out like that. And Imabel has a little bit of a hoarse voice right now, a little bit of a strained voice, but continue.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the answer to my second question was already it was already mentioned by you earlier, but just in case you want to add something, why did you write this book, anyways?
Well, why did I write this book? Well, Imabel, I'm going to say something that I don't know if I should say because it's going to upset a lot of the viewers. The true answer to
Oh,
that, it's going to upset some people. And I know it's
brace
going to
yourselves.
I know it's going to upset people because I've mentioned this at times before. So should I say this? The true answer to that is maybe a little upsetting to people.
Say it gently.
The answer is, and the truth is that so many people don't want to hear is, I'm not going to be in the Philippines forever. I'm simply not going to be. When I moved here, I've been coming to the Philippines since 2003,
Right.
and I kept coming on and off since 2003. And for instance, I met you way back in 2006 already, 11 years ago.
Right.
But on one of my trips back in 2006, I actually lived here for 9 months straight.
Right.
A very long. That was a vacation in a way. It was a working vacation, but it was a very long trip to the Philippines. But in 2012, I came to the Philippines on a much more permanent basis, which it's hard to believe. It's been like 5 years now. That's crazy. But so I've been in the Philippines. I decided to go to the Philippines on a much more permanent basis in 2012. But my intention was never to be in the Philippines permanently. There's so many people that think that I've always wanted to spend my entire life in the Philippines and live in the Philippines. But the reality is, I'm not going to be in the Philippines forever, guys. And because of that, and I've anticipated a lot of negativity coming my way when people see me making videos in other countries, doing cool stuff in other places outside the Philippines. Because just mentioning it in the past, I've gotten a lot of hate and negativity. I remember one guy said to me, you know, Travis, I only watch your videos because you're in the Philippines. When you leave, I'm not going to watch you anymore. I'm going to unsubscribe. Now, maybe he was trying to tell me a harsh truth and just trying to let me know a harsh truth. Maybe that was just his true intentions. Maybe it was a bit of a threat to me in some way, kind of a bit of a passive-aggressive threat. Maybe it was a combination of the two things. Seems like a mean thing to say because it's like, well, gee, you don't really like me. But that's kind of one of those weak-spirited, weak-willed, weak-minded people that I was talking about. This is a guy that loves the Philippines so much. He doesn't love me, obviously. He doesn't care about me. He loves the Philippines. And my answer to that would be, my friend, if you love the Philippines that much, why not just move there? Because now you're in luck, because even though I'm not going to be in the Philippines forever, I gave you a guide that's going to point you in the right direction, help eliminate mistakes and challenges for you. It's still going to be challenging, but it's going to eliminate. The idea is to save you from major mistakes that could cost you time, money, heartache, headache. You know, that's what you want to avoid. You're not going to be able to avoid, there's no end-all guide in life to live a mistake, pain-free life. Even the Buddha was very big on teaching that suffering is part of life, but so you're not going to eliminate that. I think all major religions even teach that you can't go through life. Jesus surely suffered. You know, all these people throughout history, a lot of the world's greatest people have suffered. By the way, are these people great because are the great heroes of world history, are they great because they didn't have any challenges in life? They didn't suffer at all in life? They didn't go through any pain? Or are they great because they went through that and they kept going despite that? But that's one of those guys that he's very weak, but this is a book that whether you're weak or whether you're mentally strong and you need some reinforcement, sometimes maybe you just even need to be reminded of things that you already know. I'm a big believer that to really learn something, you don't need to see it or just hear it once. You really learn it when you start seeing it and hearing it on a consistent basis. Me, I'm always studying things that I already know because I feel that it's more beneficial that I'm reminded of things that I already know. Even we took that YouTube class a couple weeks back, and you know, you were saying this probably isn't going to benefit you because it's a very basic thing. You already have a film degree, Travis. And I said, that's true, and yeah, there's a good chance, but even though I'm sure I already know all the stuff that's covered in the course, it'll probably be a good reminder to me to start implementing and implementing action, acting on those things. Because there's a big thing between knowing something passively and having some common sense about it, and then maybe you hear it another time or you hear it in a different way.
Reinforcement.
And that's what just gets you to make the decision to take action, and ultimately that's what the book is about. It's so you don't wander through life aimlessly with no direction. It's to make a decision and to go forward. And I think that's kind of the most important thing. Even if sometimes you go in the wrong decision, you can correct course. But like I said about those weak-willed people, like trying to watch YouTube videos and learn everything so they have a pain-free transfer move to the Philippines, those are people where it's never actually going to happen. I remember one guy, he said to me, "Oh, I'm going to move to the Philippines, but I'm waiting till I have $1 million in the bank." And it's like, okay, you're waiting till you have $1 million in the bank until you move to the Philippines? Well, how much do you have right now? Oh, well, $2,000. Oh, well, you're probably never going to make it if that's your stipulation. I have to have $1 million in the bank, and I'm nowhere even close to getting to that. It's not going to happen for you, so you might as well come up with a different plan or a different condition that's going to allow you to go after what you want and reach your happiness.
Well, I guess with your answer to my second question, I think it's it's better to grab a copy of the book because you said that you're not living in the Philippines forever. So, looking at the perspective of a viewer or a potential reader or someone who is interested to move to the Philippines, I would really get a copy because I would appreciate the time and effort you exerted to share what you have learned, what you have experienced to the people through all the years that you've been in the Philippines. And I would say these are priceless. You don't need to experience what he experienced. If it's a mistake, then you can avoid that. That I would really agree with that strongly. And you said there's no pain-free way to move to the Philippines or to do anything in life.
You're going to have problems
Because,
no matter what.
in fact, sufferings and tribulations or, just trials, they make us better people. They make us stronger. And these strengths that we get, that we learn, the wisdom we learn through all these things, they actually prepare us for bigger things in life. And that's not something that I just say because I read it. It's something that I learned through life, and something that is, as well, I believe I have my faith, and I know with faith that's how it works. We learn from mistakes, we become stronger in life.
Well, something I'd like
to do bigger things.
Well, something I'd like to mention before you move on is, you're gonna make mistakes regardless. But the idea of this book, it was written to help you obviously avoid those very big mistakes, those time-consuming mistakes, the ones that suck your energy from you, the ones that suck your finances from you. And there's an old saying when you're talking about that I was reminded of. The saying is, "A fool learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others." So I have all this information in this book that is not going to waste your time. Something I'm very proud of this book, and one of the things I'm very proud about, it's very straightforward. It's not going to waste your time. I don't fill it with all this nonsense where you get really bored reading it and then you might not even ever finish it. It's not going to be a daunting task. It's a straightforward, non-time wasting thing that's going to entertain you all the way through. It's fast-paced.
Right. And I think I've actually read the book and I like it. I love it.
You were kind of surprised when you read the book, I have to
was
say.
actually impressed after reading the book, and I said, okay, I think if I am one of you guys or thinking about going or moving to the Philippines, I would get this book. But one great thing is that you don't have to be a person who is thinking about moving to the Philippines or who really wants to go to the Philippines. I think the book is useful or can be helpful whether you are the type of person who wants to move to the Philippines or not. Because after reading the book, actually, you'll be able to make the decision whether you will move or not move to the Philippines.
Well, you bring up a good point that before you move on, I feel I gotta mention is the goal for this book, and I'm sure that people are going. I'm sure that there's going to be a very high percentage of success rate for people that actually read this book and do the exercises. It's kind of active. You have to do some exercises in the book, but
simple exercises.
but super important.
Yes.
They can't be skipped over. If you do those exercises, I would say there's a 90% chance that you're actually going to move to the Philippines. I'm that confident in the success rate. But ultimately, anyone is going to be successful when they read this book. If this happens, there's two expected outcomes that I'm going to expect people to have after reading this book. One is they're either going to move to the Philippines. That's outcome number one. And the second outcome is they're not going to move to the Philippines. But, and here's the big but, they're not going to move to the Philippines, but they're going to decide that they're happy where they are, and they're going to pursue other things that are more important to them personally. They're going to go after not what they thought they want, but they're going to learn about themselves, what they really want, and discover the best way to go about that. And moving to the Philippines, it's not right for everyone. It's probably not right for most people. So I know we're getting a lot of pop-up comments and questions and stuff. We're not ignoring you. We'll field those in a little bit. But we'll get through a few more things.
They're actually moving fast, so we couldn't really read them the entire message right away. Before anything else, thank you, John Blackwell, for joining this live stream. And my next question for you, Travis, is this is a Kindle book, right?
Yes, you read it on, it's a Kindle book off of Amazon.
Right. So do we need a Kindle brand of tablet to read this, or can we use anything?
You can use anything. You don't, that's a good question. It is a Kindle book, and Amazon, they have their own tablets called Kindles. You don't need one of those to buy it or read it. I've read Kindle books off my laptop. Some people, they read them off their smartphones. So any kind of device like that that's connected to the internet, Amazon will have an app or something like that, or like a way to read it. So like I said, I've read Kindle books on my laptop. I don't have one of those Kindle tablets myself. I don't even have any tablet at all. I just read the books off the laptop.
Okay, and that's cool. Well, this is one important question as well.
Okay.
How much does the book cost?
The book currently costs $9.95. And
Okay, $9.95. And how did you choose to set that price for the book?
I chose the price $9.95, which is actually, I would say it's an amazing deal, because originally I was going to price it at $20, because here's the thing, well, first of all, of course, I want to make money to support my video making in these channels. These videos aren't free for me. Amazon takes 30%, so I'm getting, the book is less than $10. I get just over $6 for every sale I make off the book. But for the people buying the book, the reason it's important is because there's studies that when you spend money as opposed to get something for free, you value it more and you're more likely to use it. And the more money you spend on something, the more likely you are to actually use it and get benefit from it. And for example, in December, I bought a new camera, a Canon G7X, very expensive high-end point and shoot. Cost me a lot of money. Cost me so much money, it made me a bit uncomfortable spending that. But, it's to help run this channel and improve things. But it's not a cheap camera, and I felt uncomfortable spending that much money on it. And then in December, or after Christmas, I bought another camera through Amazon, action cam, kind of like a GoPro ripoff. And it was only $50. I did a recent review and talked about it that some people have probably seen. But this camera was only $50. And then I had it shipped to my cousin, and when he came out to the Philippines, he brought it out to me. And then it actually just sat in the box for about a month. And I never really used it. It's a $50 camera. I didn't really value it. I'm like, it's just a cheap thing that I'm going to use occasionally. And you contrast that with the mentality I had when I bought the expensive Canon G7X. As soon as I bought that, I said to myself, I'd better use this thing every day because I want to get my money's worth out of this. I spent a lot of money on this thing. Like, it was a bit of a strain for me. I want to be dang sure I get my money's worth out of this. So I use it almost on a daily basis, whether I'm taking photos with it, shooting video with it. It's something that, same thing when I bought a computer before leaving. I bought that Fujitsu that was stolen when our apartment was burglarized. Right. And when I bought that, I thought, okay, I need to really work on this thing to make money to because I thought of it as an investment, kind of like my book is an investment for people that are buying it. I'm like, boy, I'd better get to work and try and use this thing to find jobs and make money because I want to recoup that money as much as possible. So I used that computer and put it to good use, trying to find gigs and jobs to where I could recoup that money. So it's definitely, people value things. Kind of like something that always happened to me was for years I was getting all these, every day I'd get a ton of emails, people asking me questions about the Philippines. And a lot of the times, because I'm a nice guy, I would try and be nice and answer their questions back. But I'd send them their answer, and most of the time, they didn't appreciate it. A lot of these people, I remember one guy, I saved him potentially several $1,000s, and something that could have been a life-changing mistake, and this guy wouldn't even say thank you back to me. So the point is, when I was answering these questions for free, people didn't appreciate them because it's like, well, it's maybe even if it's just subconsciously, they're saying, well, it's worth what I paid for it. I didn't really pay anything. It's not really an investment for me. I don't need to follow that. I don't need to appreciate it. But then I put something on my website saying, if you have questions about the Philippines, I do consulting. PayPal me $25 and then send your question. And then when people started paying to have their questions answered, even though it was only $25, the types of appreciation I got, and then seeing people implement what I told them to change their lives, it was so different. Every time I'd answer a question when someone would pay, they appreciate it, and then they actually took action and they used it. So they were actually changing their lives for a relatively small fee. So, and I know we live in a society too where people think that everything should be for free. For instance, I went on Amazon yesterday and I looked up a book that helped me out a lot when I was a teenager. It helped me bulk up in the summertime. The book is actually called Super Squats, and it was listed for like $10 or $13, and I saw a review on there where someone bought it for $13, and they complained and they said, yeah, it's a good program that works, but for $13, it's overpriced, don't buy it, you can find this information on the internet. And I thought, what a stupid review, because $13 for something that actually works, it was a very simple, old school program that works, and works for people that aren't on steroids. They paid $13 for it. Why would you complain if something gives you results and gives you accurate information that's changing your life for the better, and you think that's overpriced? And they're saying that, yeah, you can just go on the internet and learn this for free. Well, I would say, first of all, you probably wouldn't do that because you probably wouldn't know where to begin to look for that. Even if you did know how to search and find that program, I'm sure you'd come up with a lot of conflicting information that puts doubt in your mind, and that just confuses you, and then you might not ever start the program because you'll be like, well, there was some comments from this guy saying it didn't work, it's no good, oh, this guy's saying this other thing. It's just going to lead to all this confusion. Why not just spend $30 on a book? The book was well written. It's, like I said, it's called Super Squats. The book was well written. It had entertaining stories that actually gave you the motivation and the faith to believe that, hey, I think this program will work, or it's at least worth trying. I might as well commit to it for the next 6 weeks and see what kind of results I get, as opposed to if you go on the internet, you might not find it, and you'll find so much different information that's conflicting that you'll probably just lead to confusion, and will lead to non-action, which is not what you want. You're always better to take action, even if sometimes it's the wrong action, because you can correct course. You got to move. And that's why, like I said before, that's why I see in so many of the comments on my YouTube views, so many people are so afraid to take action. And this book is designed to help get you to that point where you take action. Because if you don't take action, what's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing good. Yeah, you can avoid some pain and heartache by not taking action, but I don't like to take risks myself in life, but probably the biggest risk in life is not taking any risks. That in itself is a risk that you need to understand. So, hopefully that answers your question, Imabel.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think when, say for example, even a textbook, or I have to say, for example, I'm researching for something. Okay, let me just be more specific.
I'm just going to turn the air conditioning on. The mic's going to move
I was
away
actually going to turn on the light if that would give us better light.
The light's a little weird.
Okay.
Maybe turn on.
You try to be back.
Okay.
I'll be back outside.
Getting a little hot in here. I don't think the light made much of a difference.
I
but
think it did. 'Cause
Go
I'm
ahead,
seeing-
sorry.
Yeah. Let us know, by the way, if the sound from the air conditioner distracts you from listening to
That's why I
what
had it
we're
off.
saying.
Yeah.
And so, I also teach. So as a college lecturer, I also had to choose which books to use for my reference in preparing my lessons for my classes, right? And there are like you could use many books, but when I end up seeing a book where almost everything that I need is in it, I prefer to use that book most of the time. In the same way that when you want to buy a book, say about moving to the Philippines, you could actually easily look up things on the internet, watch different videos from different YouTubers, different vloggers, different people, but that will take a lot of time, just like when I research. And when you research, of course, you also have to research if the source is reliable, is credible. And you have to like try to check forums, try to check many things, right? But when you decide to buy a book like this that Travis wrote, it will save you time from having to look up different sources, watching different videos. And in fact, there are people who make videos or talk about the Philippines or moving to the Philippines who have not really gone to the Philippines, who have not really lived in the Philippines for a long time. So how can you be sure that they are also sure of what they're talking about, right? And I think the best point about this book is that Travis shares with you his personal experience from living in the Philippines.
The
And
things that I've learned.
the things that
can help you
the
out.
things
It's
that
geared
he has
towards
learned
you.
through his time in the Philippines, and not as someone who has not moved to the Philippines will not be able to learn that right away. Maybe by reading books and watching videos, right? But we also have different kinds of experiences. And I'm just so glad and thankful that you have the opportunity to share, impart this knowledge, this information to you guys through the book. Because it's also great for you to watch the videos on Travis Craft's YouTube channel, this channel. But of course, you'll have to watch all of them, and it's fun to watch all of them.
And there's things that aren't covered in my
Yes,
videos. Because
and
this is written for a very
there are
specific
things
purpose.
in the book that were not covered in the videos on this channel. So these are just to give you an idea why it's really best to get a copy of the book. Moving on.
Well, it's kind of like you were saying about how people feel they can get the information from things. You're free to get information from anyone
Of
that you want,
course.
anyone that you trust. But it's kind of funny because, like I was talking about conflicting information, I've had informative videos before, and then there's always comments that contradict it in the thing. And it's like, who are you going to listen to? Someone else? Or are you going to listen to someone where the proof is in the pudding, I feel? If you trust someone else more than me, by all means, listen to them. Don't listen to me. But I think the proof is in the pudding. If I have the evidence that I've lived long-term here successfully, that and maintained a pretty good, I'd say a pretty good quality of life. I'm maybe not living, I'm not driving a Rolls Royce down the street, or I'm not living like Puff Daddy, but I'd say, I've come a long ways in my life, coming from having nothing not so many years ago. You talk about even when we first met, look at where I was in life, to now. It's definitely, I've moved up in life, as you should be. You should be in a different place from 20 to 30. At 40 you should be in you should hopefully be a little bit better off than when you were 30. At 50, hopefully you're better off than when you're 40. Now, sometimes you make mistakes in life, and it takes you back. Hopefully you don't make too big of mistakes, though, to where you end up 70 years old and you're like, geez, I have nothing for retirement. I never invested in anything in my life. Hopefully you don't get to that level. But something that we got a comment here, and guys, for you guys that are live in the room, we can start taking questions and comments. We didn't mean to be ignoring you, but we just had a lot that we want to get. Did you have any more questions, or was that it?
I think I'm good. I asked
So,
the questions that I wanted to ask.
I got the laptop here because it's a little easier to read your... So if you see me at my eyes looking down, That's what I'm looking at. But Mark Wadsley, thank you for joining us, Mark. He's from Australia. He says $25 is a lot of money. Go ahead and reply. I got a question for you, Mark. It's a lot of money. Now, maybe it's a lot of money if you're buying a pack of bubble gum. I'd say that's a lot of money, or if you're buying a soda. But I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. Maybe he missed the beginning where I spent $20 on a book before I moved to LA, and it's $25. It's not a lot of money if it's going to save you hundreds, or I think he's talking about my consulting.
Yeah.
Like I said, I saved a guy several $1,000s, saved him from completely altering his life for the most likely very much the worse, and for $25 to prevent that. And things in life, a lot of them, there's that old saying, whatever it is, an ounce of prevention. I really believe that whether it's staying safe in life or doing things, just a little bit of prevention, maybe not going to the wrong place, maybe not associating with just the wrong people, it could drastically alter the future outcome of your life. So $25, like for the people that paid my consulting fee, for things that are helping them make life-changing decisions, that's not a lot. So... And it's not a bad thing to do to support the channel so we can keep making videos that benefit everyone, including the people that paid for it. So $25 isn't a lot if it's going to save you things. And what I would say, too, about maybe some people are going to play, $9.95 to buy a book to move to the Philippines. I would say if you don't have that kind of money, you're in no position to be thinking about moving to another country. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have that, it's an investment in yourself. If you can't, make an investment, worst case scenario, you read the book, maybe you don't like it, that's the worst case scenario, but worst case scenario really is you read the book and you're entertained for a little bit. You can spend $10 going to the movie theater, and for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever the movie is, you sit there and you're entertained for your $10. You buy the book for $10, you're entertained for probably about the same time as you read the movie. That's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is you buy the book, you walk away with, even if it's only one thing, one key idea that really changes things for you. But I think there's a lot of things in there that are really going to benefit you. But even if you only get one benefit from it, that's still worth it. But I think that, especially if you reread it, no matter... There's also a saying, you get in life what you put out. Mm-hmm. You kind of get what you want to get out of it sometimes. So, but we can take more of your guys's
questions.
Yeah, we have Casual Germ, who actually bought the book already as soon as we started the broadcast, basically. Actually, before we hit the go live button, just off the link, he left a comment saying he bought. He says, "Truth, Travis. I'm 32 and just now investing money in tech stocks." Well, that's good. You're making changes you're thinking about things later in life. Really, you want to get people investing, I think, as teenagers, really, at least by 19. Not saying I did that, but it's another thing, learning from other people's mistakes. Maybe learn from my mistakes.
The younger you start, the better it would be. So
Chris Smith says, "Have you seen any snakes there?" We're trying to keep this on topic about moving to the Philippines, and you can even ask about my life experience, but I guess that kind of pertains to it. Have I seen snakes in the Philippines for Chris Smith? The truth is, not
in
many.
In the mall.
Yeah.
A guy goes to the mall with big snake on his neck.
Yeah, we see a guy walking around SM North. He has a big white python wrapped around. But of course, that's not what he's talking about.
Accessory.
There's a lot of snakes in the Philippines, a lot of poisonous snakes. But since I spend most of my time in Metro Manila, it's not even an issue here. I've seen, I think, maybe one snake when we were off somewhere in the wilderness, and that's the only time. I don't even know what kind. There is a lot of poisonous snakes around here. There's cobras, I think, in Pampanga or somewhere further up north.
Okay.
Poisonous cobras. So Casual Germ says he's paranoid if he were to go hiking. Me too, man. Me too. That's why I try and spend most of my time in Metro Manila. You don't have that.
We know someone who always goes on hiking and climbing mountains here. We didn't hear any issue from him. But they always have a Filipino guide. So
One thing that's
that would help you.
One thing that's because the city's paved with concrete here, you don't have to really worry about snakes so much, even though supposedly there's so many poisonous snakes. The streets are paved, so it's not much of an issue, of course, in Metro Manila. But a bigger issue would be dog bites.
Oh yeah,
You
in
have
the
a,
city.
you have a nephew, I remember, that was bitten by a neighbor's dog. Not even just a wild dog.
He
A neighbor's
didn't
dog.
even go out or something. But there are a lot of stray dogs, stray cats, on the streets of Manila or even in the provinces. But you really
Called
have
Azcals.
Ascal, yes.
Yeah.
Asong Kalye, for short Ascal.
But the soccer team is Azcal
Like
with a Z
dogs
spelled
in the
differently.
street,
With
street
dogs,
dogs.
street dog is AS. And the
That's the
soccer
name
team or
of the
whatever
team,
it is.
yeah.
But that's spelled with a Z.
Yeah.
But I remember you went to the hospital to get a rabies shot for your nephew, and I wasn't there, but you told me there was they saw hundreds of people to give rabies shots in a day.
That hospital is a government hospital, and they said, I can't remember the figure I gave you, but that's the average number of patients they take care of every day for dog bites. So that's something that you have to be extra careful with, especially if you go walks on the streets in the Philippines.
Here we're going to get to some more questions. Veterans Blog says, if you had money to start up a business there, what would it be, if any? I think they mean.
Which one again?
If I had money to start up a business in the
Uh-huh.
Philippines, what would it be, if any? Well, this is another question that's addressed to me personally, but I don't think you want to know what I would do so much, because so many people, when they address these questions, sometimes it's good to say, what would you do? But most of the time, and for certain things, and I think this is one of those things where it would be asking, what should I do? Not what would Travis do? What would be appropriate for me? And this is a question that could take up a whole nother video. But you see I see so many guys that they want to move to the Philippines, and they say, oh, I'll just start up a business. I'll start up a Sorry Sorry store. I'll start up an internet
shop.
cafe. I'll start up a small restaurant. Those seem to be the top three. But to those guys, I would say is there really a big need for those in the Philippines? How many of them are there already there? Well, there's tons of them. The market is flooded with those things. And how many of those things do you see coming and going? There's so many restaurants we go to that it seems you go back there a few months later, you see it being shut down and things like that. So they seem to have a very high failure rate. And another thing I would say to consider for yourself is, if you don't know anything about business in your own country, if you've never run any kind of successful business, you don't know much about business in your own country, what on earth makes you think you're going to go to the Philippines and start a successful business? Now, I'm not saying it can't be done. Don't confuse that. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying these are things to think about and consider. It's one of those things that you see a lot of naive people thinking they can do, and they think things are going to work out. And it's another thing that I would say this almost warrants another video. What I'm about to say here is, you should have a plan before you move to the Philippines. Definitely have a plan, but also be prepared when that plan doesn't work out, because like I said, things rarely go in life as we expect them to go, and often they don't go quite the way we want them to work. I know it didn't for me not just in the Philippines, but throughout my life. There's so many times things didn't quite work out the way I wanted, and they didn't go as planned. So you got to be flexible enough as a person to be able to pivot and change to something else when that doesn't work. You got to roll with the punches to some extent. And there's another thing they'll say, because there's also a philosophy in business as well as life, in terms of you just got to keep going. You got to keep going. And I would say that's true, being persistent, and a lot of the times persistence pays off. But you also have to know when, and this is the hard part, knowing when things are never going to happen, and you need to shift, you need to pivot, you need to go in another direction. That's the hard part, trying to figure that out. When you should persist and keep going forward, because maybe you're almost there, you're almost to the success you want, but you have to also know when enough is enough. I need to cut my losses and do something else.
That's what we call quitting strategically.
Correct.
Yeah. I was gonna say something, but it kind of slipped my mind. Can we just move on?
Yeah, let me see.
Answer another question.
What is good to stay in while I'm there, apartment or hotel? Well, to that I would have to say, it's another question from Chris Smith. To that I'd have to say, there's a couple other things I have to know.
One question is, how long are you going to stay here?
Question number one, yes.
Yes, to answer that question, you have to ask yourself, how long will I stay there? If it will be long and you are concerned with your budget, you want to, to minimize your expenses, then you can go for number one option, an apartment where that offers you long-term, short-term rents, but is actually cheaper compared to a daily rate in a hotel. They
usually call them condo towns.
Condo towns.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, they're like serviced apartments.
So you can rent for, say, a whole month at a cheaper rate than paying a daily rate at a regular hotel.
But you can also, of course, if you have contacts with hotels, because I know that because I manage executive luxury tours. Hotels can also give you, upon request and upon with you negotiating with them, they could give you long LST, something like long stay rate, LLSR, long stay rate, meaning if you stay there more than 2 weeks or 2 weeks, maybe that could already be considered long stay. So if a hotel can give you a rate like that, then go for it. You can try to weigh your options considering your budget requirement.
And here's another question I'll let you answer, and then I'll talk about. Cowboy Martin says, I'm going to Cavite City. Is that a safe area? And I am hiring an armed bodyguard for the 5 days I am there with driver and car. What do you have to say about that?
Wow. Wow. With that package, one luxury tour that I organized, that was really very expensive. But that's good. That's good thinking. I didn't live in Cavite City, but I have friends and relatives who live in Cavite. I think wherever you go to the Philippines, it could be dangerous. You just have to be, like what Travis always says, use common sense. If you think it looks dangerous, or if you already heard from people that it's not safe, then don't insist, don't push, yourself to go there. And having a bodyguard would really be good. Now my question is, how did you find the bodyguard and the van rental? Just make sure that this company, the supplier, is also really credible. It's really reliable. It's a legit company. Because that's what I also did. I had to look for agencies that could provide that service to me when I needed some in organizing a tour, and I had to research which one is good and not. So that's one thing you have to consider as well.
Yeah, I would say if he hired a driver and a bodyguard, as long as you hired through reputable people, I'd say you're pretty good. You've taken a lot of precautions. I don't know that people necessarily need to take that much precaution, but depending on the individual, it could be a good thing to do, and it might not even cost you that much money. So if you're really that worried about it and you have the money, I would say it's a good thing to do as long as you're hiring reputable people. So I'm not sure how long you're going to be in the country, or how long that you're going to be staying in Cavite, how long you're going to have the bodyguard and driver. Here's a good question from Brian that just popped up. And Travis, what was the hardest culture shock to get past about being in the Philippines? So he's asking about culture shock in the Philippines. What was the hardest thing? Well, I guess to that I'd have to go way back to before I moved here in 2012 on a more permanent basis. Like the first time I came to the Philippines was way back in 2003, and that was just for a 3-week vacation. And back then, I would try to do a lot of research on the internet about the Philippines, what it was going to be like. I had a close friend in Michigan where I went to school that was from the Philippines. That's how I actually got interested in the Philippines. And the culture shock, like I said, I tried to do my research thoroughly. I was a researcher, man, as so many of you guys are before doing it. And now you guys have my YouTube videos, and you have blog posts on the internet. I went on the internet and I tried to research the Philippines way back in 2002, 2003. All that really came up was a photo of Starbucks in Makati at Greenbelt, and they said, "Oh yeah, they speak English in this country. It's very westernized." And I thought, because of that, I thought, they quoted me this statistic, which I would say is false. Really, they said it's the third largest English-speaking country in the world. So I thought, I'm going to go to the Philippines. It's going to be just like the United States, except people are going to be another race, and they're going to have palm trees, and the weather's going to be hot. But I thought, other than that, I guess it's just like the U.S. Everyone's going to speak English, all the same stuff. And I went to the Philippines, and yeah, there's a lot of the same stuff, but I never forget, like, when I first got picked up at the airport and we were driving in, and like it was at nighttime. It was hot as heck. I got in like after 10 p.m. at night. As soon as I exited the airport, I'm like, it was so hot and humid. I'm like, oh my God, it's hot here. And then I got in a car and we're driving to Makati where I was gonna stay. And I'm looking around, taking the sights in. Even though it's dark, it's night. But even in the darkness, I saw all this trash everywhere. I saw these, like, it looked like ruins. Like, it just looked scary. And I thought, oh my God, this place looks just like Detroit with palm trees. That's what came into my mind. So that was a huge culture shock to me. And then the other big culture shock, like on my second day, when I actually, after I slept and I got to walk around, go to malls, I learned that not everyone in this country speaks English. I learned that about half the people speak English. But the good news is, out of the half that speak English, half of those speak it really well. But like, I thought everyone was going to speak English, and like, I talk to people, I'm like, geez, this person doesn't even speak English. I'm like, I was lied to. So I tried to do all that research on the internet before coming here, and there was almost nothing.
But that was what year?
Like 2002, 2003. I did check out a lot of books out of the library, actually, about the Philippines. But books, a lot of them are older and they're dated and they're more about history, so I knew a lot of historical facts about the Philippines. I knew a lot of very factual stuff, but it doesn't really tell you what the culture is going to be like in a way that you have to experience for yourself. So, yeah, just learning that not everyone here speaks English, because, like I said, this was going way back. There's no YouTube videos or anything like that. A lot of the reason there was YouTube videos, I started putting them on. You know, I've been running this channel for 10 years now. It's funny, my first videos were even made, one of my first videos was even made in the US, but it became a viral hit in the Philippines. And then I came over and I'd make videos here, but so hopefully that answers your question, my friend. We have some other questions here I'll take a look at.
I think there are a lot of interesting questions. They just move fast, so we're going to try to check it from the computer.
I'll check this. I'll check this last one's interesting. Then I'll go back and look at some of the previous comments.
Maybe I can hold it for you. Why?
But Albert Castillo says, "Have you gotten sick in the Philippines? We're planning to visit my girlfriend this July and my little sister and grandpa, but we don't want to get sick like we did in Mexico." That's what Albert says.
Wow.
Have I gotten sick? Well, clearly you haven't watched all my videos. Yeah, I've been sick a number of times here, mainly after we taped this
documentary for a TV show.
GMA network.
It's a TV station.
Yeah, we did a documentary called Real Time. It was on a channel here called GMA, and it was they made me live in this squatters area for like 3-4 days, something like that. It was a house that was floating
on a filthy river.
A river of literally garbage, where everyone goes to the bathroom in it and just throws all their waste in it. So it's literally floating on garbage and waste, full of rats. And I got sick with both dengue and leptospirosis at the same time after staying there. Had quite the hospital spell. We have some older videos about that. That was back in 2012, and so yeah, I got sick. In the book, though, we do talk about some issues with healthcare we touch upon, and about, depending what area you're in. This is more like, keep in mind, this is more for people that are deciding on a place to live. Part of what's touched upon that you have to consider in the book is there a good hospital near me just in case something happens? or especially since so many people that want to move to the Philippines that are older people that are most likely going to have more health issues than younger people.
Right.
Those are definitely things to keep in mind. Healthcare here, how far are you from a good hospital? Do I have money to pay for that? Am I going to have any kind of insurance? Do I have benefits as a veteran, even if you're in the United States military? We're in the military in the U.S. because some of those could apply to certain health. Yeah, you'd have to check with the hospital, but you can get medical care even if you're an American military. But you have to make sure you go to a qualifying place for treatment for that.
For what's his name? Albert Castillo, right?
Yeah.
My suggestion for you is when you come here, be ready with your mosquito repellent, and because we're not really sure which areas you'll be going to, you could apply your mosquito repellent, and when you go swimming, be ready with your what do you call this, AB?
Mosquito repellent.
No, when you go
Sorry, I was
swimming
looking
under
at the
the sun.
Oh, a sunblock, yeah.
sunblock.
But that's less of a concern. But
I'm just saying,
it's cheaper if you buy that in the
these are
U.S.
just, simple few reminders that you could also consider before coming here.
Let me see here. Oh, I do. There's one other part that I'd like to say about his, other than just healthcare and stuff. He asks about he doesn't want to get sick. Well, I would say try to avoid street food. I have some other videos about this. Try and eat in places, even if they're fast food, if you feel they're clean and have standards of cleanliness. But the bottom line is, and I don't really want to put this in your head, there's a good chance you will get sick here. But that being said, if you get sick here, don't worry too much about it. It might last for a day or two where you feel really, really bad. Partly, too, because it's easy to get sick. You're in a new environment. You're full of, the air is full of germs here. Everything's full of germs that you're not used to coming from probably a cleaner place. So there's a good chance you will get sick. Most people that come over on vacation, they get sick a day or two. But the good news is it's going to last only a day or two, like it happened to my friend from college, Doug, that came over. Happened to me on my very first trip. I've gotten very good at avoiding that, even if I leave and come back, because I'm very careful now. You really got to get used to the germs, I think. But that's why I always tell people, if they're just coming for a vacation, plan your vacation to allow for maybe a couple days where you're sick or you're just really tired and you need to rest. So plan on having a couple days. Don't make your vacation too short, like say a 7-day vacation, and then maybe you're sick for 2.5 days. There's so much of your time wasted. So try and stay, if you're coming for a vacation, long enough to be able to have a couple days that you don't really get to do what you want to do. So if you
Very good advice.
Most people get sick, but don't worry about it too much. Just kind of go with the flow. Just plan for that before coming, so leave a couple extra days for your vacation. Brian, who has an interesting avatar, it's just an eyeball, a close-up of an eyeball. I guess he's also the one that actually asked, what's the hardest culture shock about the Philippines that I found? He says another great comment here. He says, I found stuff online about the Philippines. Hasn't been as informative as you have been. I appreciate your channel.
Wow.
Well,
thank you, Brian. It's very heartwarming to hear that.
Well, we really appreciate the really terrific comment, Brian. We're glad that we can be of help to you. And kind of like what I was talking about before with the book of, you got to take into consideration the source. For instance, I was watching this. I don't do steroids, but I was watching some video about where some professional bodybuilder was talking, and he says there's people that ask him about steroids, and he says exactly what he uses and other pros, and exactly how they should go about it personally. And then they'll say, well, I read this other thing on the internet that said this, and it's like, you're going to go follow that over the advice of a pro bodybuilder? You'll follow just some random comments or some random blog post on the internet about steroids when a professional bodybuilder that uses that as part of his job is telling you exactly what they do and what that person should do? Not that I use steroids or condone that. I don't like that stuff myself, but it kind of applies here. I mean, if people, consider the source of that you're getting information from. I've shown things about my life, and I've been here definitely very long term. I've been coming here very long term, and I've actually lived here very long term. So, I would consider the source. I mean, you might say, yeah, this other person, he gave me this information in his YouTube video. I don't need to buy your book. And I would say that's fine if you trust him and you think he's a better source. Do it. It doesn't really affect me. Like I said, the book is not about me. It's really to help you. And like I said, I want to deliver the information to you in the most straightforward way that doesn't waste any of your time and gives you directly what you need. I think even if someone were just to read the first 2 chapters, I think they're probably very high chance they're on their way. Or like I said, they decided that, okay, I need to really pursue it. They're going to really discover things. I'd say I structured the book in a way where I tried to go in order of put the most important things towards the front of the book, but also I would say definitely the last 2 chapters where we kind of start wrapping things up, other things to keep in mind. I would say those are also quite important. And, you can read it in a way that's, you can get through it in a day, definitely the whole book. And you can even reread it and take away other things, but you're really going to come away with different ideas. And maybe you'll say, I don't want to move to the Philippines, but if you really want to move to the Philippines and you feel like something's holding you back, I would say you got to just do it. You got to do it. You might not be able to do it this week or this month, obviously, because sometimes things do take some planning, but you got to just do it because like I said, so many people in my YouTube videos, comments, they say I want to move to the Philippines, and it's like, my God, why aren't you doing it? Why saying I want to do something? It's almost like it's a weak prayer where they're waiting for some miracle to win the lottery and then they can have a magic lifestyle. That's not even really a weak prayer. It's just a wishful dream that has no chance of ever actually coming to fruition. Whereas, if you buy my book and you start making decisions, you get empowered with making the decisions, you really read it, you do the exercises, and you really feel empowered, you're going to take action, you're going to go in some direction, or you're going to say, you know what, I learned that I don't want to go in that direction, I'm going to do something else and I'm going to go towards that. So let's take a look at these. Let me see. Christopher DeBona says, how long do you plan to live in the Philippines? Maybe he's a little nervous about what I said earlier.
But thank you, Christopher. I saw one of your comments. He's praying for us. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Go ahead.
Well, maybe Christopher's a little nervous. How long do I plan to live in the Philippines? I don't want to be the boy that cried wolf, because I've mentioned this, especially in live broadcasts. I've mentioned this sporadically here and there that, this is not something. And I've mentioned it because so many people, they just assume that I want to live in the Philippines forever. That was never what I wanted. Before I came here, actually, just to tell a little bit about my personal journey, which isn't in the book, before I came to the Philippines, I made the decision that I really like the Philippines. I'm very interested in it. You were here, of course. And I said, I want to try living there for a little while and just see how it goes, see what happens. I think some good things are going to happen. I had a rough plan. Things didn't really go according to plan. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. But the plan was where I figured, okay, I'm going to work like the Dickens for a couple years, because I was here for 6 months in 2010. Actually, in 2010 was the first time I kind of got a little bit tired of being in the Philippines. At the end of the 6 months, I'm like, I miss the U.S., I want to go back. And I went back and I did some other things in the U.S. while I was there. I wanted to take a break from my career and just kind of work a regular job where I get a regular salary. Did that for a little while, but I quickly started getting the urge to come back to the Philippines in 2010, 2011. And I was like, so I started working like crazy, putting away, saving money any way I could, scrimping, saving, any kind of odd job I could pick up to put away money. So because I really want to be prepared, and I want to put myself in a situation where I figured I can live reasonably comfortably for a year, even if no other money comes in. I can live reasonably comfortably for a year, and then at the end of the year, I'll decide if money's coming in and I have other reasons to stay, if work is going okay. Because I'd worked in the Philippines before, going way back to 2006. I worked here a lot, but it's like my career was on hold in this country for so long. And I went back to the U.S., I did other things. I did TV commercials, I did magazine photo shoots. I did catalogs in the United States. But, they kind of don't, most of that stuff they don't really realize, except for the really big stuff. Like when I did that photo shoot with Lindsay Lohan, they actually wrote about that in a newspaper in the Philippines. But, I know that that's not really going to be permeated so much in the consciousness. I had a pretty good career, and I left when it was really picking up well in 2006. And I thought, I don't really know if it'll be remembered all that well, because it's like I've been on hiatus from that for so long. Mm-hmm. So, but I put away enough money personally for myself that I figured even if nothing comes in, if I can't get any gigs, I can live for a year, and then at the end of the year, I go back to the U.S. and I got to try and work and make more money and stuff. So that's how I did it. And like especially towards the end of that year, I started to think that maybe that wasn't a good idea doing that, because I started to think, man, I could have put down a good down payment on a house or something instead of doing this with my life. And sometimes for you personally, that's a decision that you need to make. What's the best investment of my time and resources? For me, it's like I could have put down a good down payment on a house and started making houses and building equity and having a house in the U.S., even a pretty nice place. But instead, I saved it up and I said I'm going to go in the Philippines and blow it to some. Not that I was blowing it, but you got to pay rent, you got to pay food, and when you don't have money coming in, or at least not enough money coming in, it starts to go quicker than you usually think.
Well said. Casual Jim already bought a book, right? A copy of the book. He actually has a question here, Travis. Casual Germ said, Travis, during your 9 months, what was the homesickness like? The most I spent in the country was 3 weeks, and after 1.5 weeks, I was missing home like crazy.
After a week and a half, he was missing?
Yes.
And how long did he spend here?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
In another country, I guess. Here, I guess.
Oh, well, that's a great question. My homesickness, he's talking about my 9-month stay here in 2006. During my stay here in 2006 for 9 months straight, I had zero homesickness. Totally zero.
Leave.
I was starting to have a really good career here actually in 2006, which is probably most of that stuff's kind of forgotten now. You and I remember it, of course, but things were going amazing for me. And even my best friend, Lance Raimundo, he was saying to me, he said, after the 9 months, because I'm like, I got to go back, I got to work on my career in the U.S., and he was saying, look, if you leave right now, it's just going to be Cy Young, meaning it's going to be like a pity, because it's going to be a shame. It's because it's going to be a waste. You worked for all these months, and now you're really starting to get momentum with your career here. You're really doing good things. And he said, if you leave now, it's going to kill all that momentum. And it's like all this time that you've spent here building something, it's all going to crumble and it's going to be for nothing. In many ways, he was right, Lance Raimundo. But during that 9 months, I had zero homesickness. I had a very rough first week here, actually. I came here in November, actually, of 2005. And I had an amazing 9 months here, but the first week was actually terrible. I had an amazingly bad first week, and I was going to go back after the first week. But over that whole 9 months, to answer your question, I had zero homesickness. So, and I didn't want to leave. And then I came back again. And then I came back in 2007. I came back I went home. I went back to LA. Things went terribly for me for 9 months. I only booked one job in 9 months that I went back to LA. It just had bad luck. Things weren't going right. I booked a job doing packaging for these tattoo sleeves. And now they sell them every Halloween. A lot of people tell me they see them in stores in the U.S. for Halloween. So things went terribly, but then I had an opportunity to go back to Asia, to China actually, because I got a phone call while things were going so terribly for me. I got a phone call saying, hey Travis, they're holding this thing that's called Mr. World. They're holding it over in China, in the south of China, on this tropical island, and we would like to pick you to go represent the United States. Maybe you've heard of the Miss World. They have one for guys. It's not quite a beauty pageant like that. It's meant to be a little bit more manlier. But I got this call, would you like to represent the United States? We'll buy you a ticket to China, all expenses covered. And I'd always want to go to China, so of course it's yes, but they said, here's the catch, you got to leave right away. We want to get you on a plane as soon as possible because the thing's already starting. So I said, yeah, man, I'm game, but for as long as, I said, can we delay my ticket going back home to the U.S. while I'm in China? Maybe I can get a cheap ticket to fly to the Philippines. So I came back, and so I came back in 2007, and I immediately, as soon as I got to the Philippines, I was on a TV show actually like the same day that I flew in. Remember that?
The day after, the morning after you arrived.
Yeah, I flew in at night. Then they said, you got to get up early. You're going to be a guest on a morning show. And I started doing all this stuff. I did like several things in just a fairly short span of time here in 2007. Then I went back to the U.S. I did some things again. My career went a little bit better there. Especially in 2010, the first half of 2010, I was really motivated. I did a lot of stuff, but then, so the first half of 2010, I spent in the U.S., and the last thing I did this movie, and it gave me kind of a nice paycheck. Mm-hmm. And I remember all the other actors, they were saying, oh yeah, I'm so glad I got this job because now I can pay my rent and things like that, they were saying. And someone said to me, on the set, they said, Travis, what are you going to do with your money from this movie? And I said, actually, I'm buying a ticket to the Philippines. I'm going to go live in the Philippines for a while after this. And people were like, that's kind of strange. But so I went for the second half of 2010. I went back, and then going after maybe 5 months, 6 months in the Philippines, even though things were going very well for me here in the Philippines, getting a low battery. Let me see. Let me try and plug this in before continuing this
I think
story.
we have to move this to the other, that one for the air conditioner. Maybe you can plug it there.
Okay, maybe you can do that as I should tell the story. But even though in 2010 things were going so well for me in the Philippines, that's the first time actually that I started to experience homesickness.
Trying to put it on.
Okay, it looks like it's charging. Hopefully it is.
For the interruption. Okay.
So that's the first time that now she's in an awkward position trying to get by me.
Excuse me.
So that's the first time I experienced homesickness in the Philippines. I'd been to the Philippines so many times. One time was even 9 months straight. Had no homesickness in the Philippines whatsoever. But in 2010, after being here about 5 months, I started to really miss the U.S. I don't know if you'd call it homesickness, but I definitely wanted to go back to the U.S. I missed the U.S., and so I did just that. I went back to the U.S.
He missed the food.
I missed so much about the U.S., so I went back to the U.S. after 6 months in 2010, but that was my first time experiencing homesickness in the Philippines. But definitely not after a week and a half. Maybe you weren't around the right people, or maybe you had high expectations that it couldn't live up to. My first time in the Philippines, I had super high expectations, and my first trip, it exceeded my high expectations. So,
yeah, I just want to add something to our answer earlier to Veterans Blog. He asked about if you had money to start up a business there, what would be it and why. Another thing to consider is if you are not a local, if you're not Filipino citizen, you cannot have full ownership of the business if you have it in the Philippines.
good point.
So that will only be...
We talk about some of that in the book, actually.
Right. And...
we got a question there from Kenzie Howard. Maybe he says, how much is it to get married in a church? Imabel, how much does it cost to get married in a church? Do you know?
It depends on how much the church where you want to have it done charges. It's not like a charge. They have a set
It's probably,
fee.
okay.
They have a set fee on how much to pay when you want your ceremonies done in that church. Of course, I will include the priest and using the church, and they will also have to take care of the paperwork and all that. But it has been a long time since I had that done. I did that. So
Not that you didn't get married in a church.
No. I mean to help other people
Yeah,
to do
right.
that. So I cannot really give you an accurate fee right now. the best thing to do.
But you host weddings. You're just
I
not
host,
involved
I
with
host
hiring
weddings.
the church.
I host wedding receptions. So the party after the wedding ceremony is really fun, remarkable for the couple and all their guests. Anyways, so my suggestion is if you want to know how much it is, if you are not in the Philippines, maybe you could check the website of a church where you're considering it and try to check if they have a listing of, how much it is if you want, because they would have it baptism fees, wedding or matrimony fees. If not, if you know someone here, maybe you could request her or him to go or call the church and ask for the fee. That would be one thing. That would be the best thing to know how much it is.
Yeah, it's going to vary from church to church, especially you can imagine the really historic churches. Remember that one that we just went by in Quiapo? That's like the oldest, I believe it's the oldest church in the Philippines, not in Quiapo, in
Intramuros.
Intramuros.
That's like one of the best churches for weddings.
You can expect,
And I think it is. Yeah, it could be pricey. Pricey, like it could be more expensive than other churches.
you can at least expect it to be more expensive than the local church on the corner or whatever, something like that.
On a smaller parish.
That's a good question. It's not in my book because the book is aimed at people wanting to move to the Philippines, not necessarily get married. So I guess that's an interesting
But
question.
these are questions that these are the kind of questions that we also get from viewers who talk to us for consultation. And let's see. Maybe you could look at this.
But that's a pretty good question, I suppose. I take it you're looking to get married in the Philippines.
Yeah. Albert Castillo said, "Thank you so much to both of you for the information. I'm less nervous now as a young traveler, 20 years old. I really want to have a blast in the Philippines. I just have to avoid the tap water." Correct.
Yeah.
and the ice. If you're eating if you're out and you ask for if there's ice in it, it's better not to have that ice, I guess, if you could avoid it, because you don't know where the ice is
I don't
from.
really worry about it,
But
if I've
that's
been
what
here so long.
that's what he says. So I guess you could take his advice.
If you're
Maybe
new
I'm just
here,
being overprotective.
if you just flew in from the U.S., you might not want ice in the drinks. I worry a lot less about that, especially for me because I've been here so long. I don't
maybe
really
those
mind.
in like restaurants, like
Yeah.
what do you call this? Trusted
But
fast foods and restaurants. Maybe that's fine.
But he also said that he's nervous, or he's less nervous now about going to the Philippines. I'll say this, don't be nervous. So I get that often in the comments too. People are nervous or they're scared. And some Filipinos, like, well, here's what happened too. Since I started making these videos and people started telling me they buy tickets to go to the Philippines because they watch my videos, I felt a responsibility to be honest about certain things to help keep people safe, because the bottom line is if someone goes here and then they get hurt in some way or they get taken advantage of, they get used, they have a bad experience, they're going to go back to their country, they're going to tell all their friends the Philippines is a terrible place, they're going to go on the internet, they're going to write bad things and tell everyone terrible things. So the best thing to do, if you really care and you really want people to have a good experience, you gotta let them know about certain bad things and realities. Yeah, I prefer to go by the philosophy of I live by the rules of the world I live in. I don't live by the way I wish things were. It'd be nice if we lived in a world full of elves and unicorns and we were all in some sort of trance or something and everyone loved each other. But that's not realistic, my friends. So is what you got to do. You got to be aware of certain things. So I want people to have a good time, have the time of their life, and they're going to do that by just using a little bit of prevention to make sure they stay safe. But don't be nervous about anything. With just a little bit of precautions, even just talking to us like this in this live stream, you're better off for it.
And speaking of talking to us on live stream,
Don't be nervous, be aware is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Imi Vlog said, "I've been here in the Philippines for 6 weeks already. I'm thankful I haven't got sick yet." Well, enjoy your stay in the Philippines right now. Christopher DeBona also asked, "What is your opinion of marrying in the Philippines?"
In where?
Oh, okay. versus the US. I'm planning to in July in Cebu to my fiance, and I'm curious how the process is. Well, there are different, I would say, based on, because we talk about things, and I learned from him that compared to America, the wedding culture in the Philippines could be extravagant.
It
It's,
can get extravagant in America too,
yeah, but,
just not for my family.
okay.
we're,
Well,
we're
maybe,
frugal people, the Kraft family.
okay, but here I think the it's very important, like when you hold a wedding, the entire family, the entire clan is invited. That's just part of the culture. So personally, we didn't do that. It's more like an intimate family thing. So it's really between you and your fiance Christopher on what to decide on. You try to, you guys can talk about how much you can really afford to spend for that, and depending on how much you can, then you plan how it would go. Because if you decide to plan a wedding, when I say big wedding, inviting the entire clan of the family of your fiance, that would definitely cost much, or cost more than inviting maybe like the immediate family, or like the smaller, just a few people and friends. Because let me give you an example. Just for the catering, they charge per head. So unless the family or whoever would volunteer to cook and prepare the food, but that would also involve a lot of work. Of course, you or your fiance would just want to focus on re-preparing for the ceremony, prepare to look good, and just savor the moment and not think about all these other things. So, one good one good way to do it is to hire a wedding coordinator, or maybe ask someone to really take care, organize of things. As for me, I host weddings, I host the reception programs, and I really make sure that it's the best day of their life, the couple and the guests. So, on that part, I could help you more, but you can talk about it if you're interested.
Well, we just had a comment about this come in, and it's a point that I was going to bring up. Something that I'd have to know about you and that you'd want to consider is what kind of, are you looking to live in the Philippines yourself, or are you looking to get her a visa where she moves to the Philippines? That's kind of important information that we'd have to know about you. What kind of visa are you looking to get? If you're looking to get her a visa, we don't know. Maybe you're planning on getting married here and just living here. But depending what kind of visa you want to get to, those are factors to take into consideration versus should I get married in the Philippines or should I get married in the U.S.? That's probably the biggest question that you want to ask yourself. What are the ramifications for the type of visa that you want to get for her? But maybe he doesn't want to get a visa at all. I don't know. Like I said, maybe he's just planning on coming here and getting married here and living here. But I'm guessing he probably wants to bring her to the U.S. So there's different types of visas. There's fiance visas. There's marriage visas.
Or spousal visa.
Spousal visas.
Yeah.
That's why I meant tourist visas, even student visas. Like all these countries have different types of visas. But if you want to get her a visa, you're either gonna want to get her a fiance visa, or you're gonna want to get her a spousal visa. And I think if you get a spousal visa, as long as you're in the Philippines, it doesn't take as long as applying from a spousal visa from.
America.
I'm not the expert
That's-
on visas, so
if
you know more about
They,
that.
yeah, if you are living in the Philippines and you are non-Filipino, you're an American petitioning your spouse, your Filipino spouse to US. There's an option called DCF, where the processing is shorter compared to petitioning your Filipino spouse if you are in the US. But of course, to be able to file that, I think you should be a resident, or something like that. I can't exactly remember, in the Philippines. And if you are married to a Filipino spouse, and if you plan to stay in the Philippines long, one thing that you could do is apply for a resident visa in the Philippines, and with that, you don't have to renew your tourist visa every For now, it's longer actually for the tourist visa, so that would not be a bad option. You could extend or renew your tourist visa to up to like 6 months straight, but you have to do it at the head office of the immigration office. And do you wanna?
Visa talk's a little bit dry for me, but I'll answer one more question about that. It's fine. Michael C. Poker says, is it hard for Pinoys to come to the USA on working visas? It's funny, this broadcast is supposed to be about people that want to move to the Philippines. He's asking about Filipinos moving to the U.S., but I'll talk about this. Generally, with some exceptions, but generally I would say extremely hard, because keep in mind the United States has like 400 million people now, many people that are even there illegally. We have so many people to do almost everything, with the exception of a few jobs. One of them, I believe, is nursing. Also caregivers. They seem to have a lot of caregivers from the Philippines. I don't know if they got there for that work, if they got working visas to get there. But definitely a lot of nurses go right from here to the U.S. and start working as a nurse. Even doctors from the Philippines. A lot of doctors from the Philippines become nurses in the United States. They go from working as a doctor in the Philippines to working as a nurse in the United States. So I guess that could be the exception to the rule. Also, there's some other things. I think on some of those Alaskan fishing boats, they hire a lot of Filipinos because the work is very tough, very dangerous, and working on a boat, Filipinos definitely have a history with working on boats and sailing and stuff. So maybe they're a good fit, except they're up in Alaska where it's cold. It's very dangerous work. So obviously it's very hard work, very dangerous work, and you have to be away from your family and society.
That's a lot of sacrifice.
You know, obviously those are more for single people or people that are very desperate for money, but I think they do hire Filipinos to do those because they need people. You know, it's not a job that most people are going to want to do. Who wants to go like do this hard work that's potentially deadly and very dangerous? You know, even if you make a lot of money in a short period of time, the risks are very high. Definitely women aren't doing that. They always talk about the pay gap. Well, what about the work-death gap? Over 90% of deaths in the workplace are male. Can't we get some equality of that to where 50% of the deaths are women? Of course you can't, because women aren't doing those types of jobs. They want to work the safe jobs and then complain that they don't get paid as much as the guy in the Alaskan fishing boat risking his life. They don't want to work the construction jobs. You know, they don't, it's men that do those hard, dangerous jobs, but they don't tell you that, of course. Now that with the political correctness going around, especially on YouTube, I'll probably get censored and shut down because of that little off-topic rant.
Okay. Christopher DeBona asked, how can we contact you privately about this? I'm typing my email address here.
Well, we do that consulting, and we have the details on my website. Go to the
or maybe that one.
Go to the contact on my website. It's the contact page on my website. My website's very simple, traviscraft.com, and it explains how we do the consulting. So very easy, and I put that on there because, like I said, I was getting so many emails. It's kind of funny when people email me. They think that they're the only one that's ever emailed me, and I have nothing better to do. I'm just at their disposal. They don't realize that maybe they're the 10th person that emailed me that day with that same question. So, but that's also why I put the book together for people, so they have a source that's inexpensive that they can get to and get some quick information. Quick information that is also going to be presented in an entertaining way, and most importantly, I feel, something that's really going to help you make decisions and motivate you to take your life in one direction or another. Because, you know, I see so many people wandering aimlessly through life, no goals, no objectives. They just have weak wishes, and trust me, I'm not saying I'm better than my audience. I've been there myself. But I'm trying to help you by transferring the information to you. And Christopher says $25 is cheap, proud to pay you. Thank you, Christopher. We put the money back into these videos because, like I said, we have a cost associated with doing them. That's one reason I haven't done as many videos this year compared to the past. Why there's like, I'll go weeks at a time now with uploading a video. And when I do upload videos, I try and make them things that I'm already happen to be doing. But even that can be inconvenient sometimes because because I want to enjoy my life and be out and about and not film, spend time with you guys, have a good time in life when I'm not working. So, that's one of the realities of this world. We all need to work. We need to make a living. This is not my career or my business per se. So, but one thing I learned, especially when I came here and started producing high-end videos consistently back in 2012, I learned you can go broke making YouTube videos. That was one of the big strains that I didn't really account for when I came here. One of the strains on my finances was going out doing all these shoots for my YouTube channel, and it's like it was making my bank account like drop a lot quicker. Like I said, I put all that money away thinking, oh, this should be enough to live a decent lifestyle for a year. But then, there's always unexpected expenses that come up in life, and those are things you got to plan for. It's almost like you got to plan for things that you can't really foresee.
Right, right. Well, guys, thank you so much, by the way, for hanging with us on this live stream right now. If you were not able to join us from the beginning, hopefully this is being recorded completely, so you can still catch it. You can still watch the entire thing after this live broadcast. So, and to those who are familiar with me, I'm sorry for the hoarse voice.
Yeah, she's doing this even though she has a strained voice.
I think it's because of cough or something. So, by God's grace, I'll be back to my normal voice. And do we have any other question that we could possibly address before we say bye-bye to them?
Well, I actually did not expect to. I'm going through the things, trying to see where the stream is and play it here. I actually didn't expect to go on this long. So, but we like hanging out with you guys. We like spending this time with you. Like I said, normally we do these live streams, and they're more entertainment based, less information based than this one is, and we run it like a radio talk show where we just talk about fun, entertaining things. So this wasn't quite that, but maybe you guys really appreciated that we just picked one topic to kind of elaborate on and field questions from, and maybe you guys like that for a change. And if you like that format where you do a live stream and you talk about it, and where you can really talk at length about it, maybe we'll do that as opposed to the normal live streams where we tend to jump all over the place. I know the lighting isn't really great in here. We have a window right here, and it's creating weird lighting. We're using the front camera here on an older iPhone, and these front cameras on these older iPhones, they're really not good. So even though visually this isn't the best, I'm using this because I have a mic plugged directly into the iPhone, a mic that's designed for the older iPhones. So hopefully the audio was good, and thank you guys, and glad to be service to you as always.
Before we say bye-bye, can you say the title of the book? And you can check that out.
Yeah, you guys really should. I'm trying to pull it up to actually show them what it looks like here on the Amazon page. Maybe I can hold it in front. It's called 12 Easy Steps to Move to the Philippines and Get What You Really Want Out of Life. I'll see if I can, if it'll show up if I hold it here in front of the computer so you can see it on Amazon. It's kind of there. It's showing up there. So there you go.
So.
That's what it looks like on the Amazon page. Trying not to drop my big heavy laptop, but 12 Easy Steps to Move to Philippines and Get What You Really Want Out of Life. And that's really the theme of the book. It's not just to get what you want, but to discover what it is that you really do want. Because for years, I can't tell you how many people I've seen that have told me, I want to move to the Philippines, and then they give you a reason that is something that they could already be having. They don't need to go through the hassle of moving to another country or culture. Now, that can be an adventure with the right attitude. That's why I did it. But if their real reason, either that or sometimes I find too, people aren't exactly honest with their reasons for wanting to do something. And you really got to be honest. Not with me. People tell me these reasons because they're afraid to tell me whatever it really is. Maybe it's they just want to be lazy and get drunk all the time off of cheap alcohol, and and hook up with strange women. Now, that's maybe not my goal in life, and it's maybe not the most admirable goal in a way, but you got to do what you want in life, not what I think you should be doing, not what even necessarily your parents sometimes think you should be doing. If that's what you really want with life, just be honest and say, this is what I want out of life. And then you can actually take steps to go in that direction and get whatever it is, what you want, whether it's a high, lofty goal or whether you set the goal really low like that. Because I tell you, so many people, they think it's very hard to move to the Philippines, and yes, it can be definitely challenging, and there will be challenges and difficulties. But out of all the things in the world, this is one of the easier things to do in a way, because if someone said to me, you know what, Travis, my goal is to be the Olympic champion in gymnastics, I'd be like, ooh, that's a pretty hard one that you picked. But if someone said, I want to move to the Philippines, I would say, well, that's highly doable. So it is doable. I gave you some in the book. We give you some inspiration, some tips. The book is structured in a way that it's a combination of things that really help you decide what you want in life. But we also give you factual things. But I'll tell you the secret: the factual things, like the cost of certain things, there's no secrets to that, and some of that stuff is not as important as you think. The more important stuff is really the other stuff, but I included like a lot of factual things because I know people would be upset if that wasn't there. And that can be useful, but I think the importance can be overrated of that. Like, how much does a certain thing cost at the grocery store? It's kind of like, who cares, you know? That's not ultimately going to impact your life very much.
Gator 33 has also joined us today. You were with us last night. That was when we were trying to
our failed live stream.
Yeah, that was not necessarily failed because we got to make it. Only that it didn't work out the way we planned it to be.
Off the unpredictable Philippines internet, and we have pretty good internet. Our internet's considered fast by Philippine standards. We have some of the fastest internet that you'll find private residents having. It's still very unpredictable and wonky, and so.
Oh, okay. Gator 33. It's all fun and games in the Philippines until someone's eyes get poked. Really bites. Buy Travis's book so you get the facts according to his experience. Good luck.
Right.
Thank you, Gator 33.
Exactly. It's my experience, but it's not just about how I did it, because if I told you exactly how I did, and you're free to ask in a live stream format like this, even though I didn't used to talk about those, the problem with that is it wouldn't really benefit you. I wrote it in a way that it's doable for you to do. Because we're all different in life. We all have different skills and talents. It's like one common question I get is Travis, how do you make money? And it's like, does it really matter how I make money? Because I know you think that you'll just find out what I do and then like steal the idea and model yourself after, and you'll do the same thing. But we all have different skills, talents, interests in life, and we're not all meant to do the same thing. We're not all meant to go the same path in life. So I want to empower you by giving you and helping you even figure out what's the best method for you, what's the best direction to take your life. That's something that you need to be totally, like I say, you got to be honest about what you want out of life. And it doesn't matter what I think someone's goals should be. Everyone should have different goals according to what's appropriate for them. And some people are going to have, maybe lower goals or less noble goals, and other people, they're going to have their head in the clouds, and they're going to say, I'm going to go to I had one guy say, I'm going to go to the Philippines and I'm going to fix a certain problem. And it's like, this is a country of over 100 million people, and they don't want an outsider coming in trying to fix their problems for them. Something that's probably existed especially for thousands of years. You're not going to come here as one guy and change it, but maybe you could change one person's life. Maybe that's a much more realistic goal. Help everyone, like my dad said, because he sponsors that girl in the Philippines that we saw in that video in Legazpi, in that area. And my dad, when I asked him why he does it, he says, well, I know I can't help out everyone in the world, but maybe I can help out one person and make a difference in their life. And I think that's brilliant, because that's actually a very attainable goal, as opposed to the other guy that said, I'm going to go and I'm going to stop this certain thing in the Philippines that's been going